All right, guys, welcome back to another video. Lots to talk about today, starting off with some pretty negative news in regards to Xbox and layoffs. We have some more information about PlayStation 5 disk drives and who's buying up all these disk drives, and potentially Tony Hawk coming back, maybe into Game Pass, maybe a brand new game coming from Activision and Xbox. But before we continue, if you do enjoy daily gaming news and content, make sure to hit that subscribe, share the video. Also check out my Spotify, link is in the description. So as we know, Xbox has already gone through some major cuts with 1,900 staff cuts that was resulted in many things like the studios closing in terms of Tango Gameworks. We've seen them allow Toys for Bob to go independent, which I think is actually a pretty good move to allow them to keep making games and create a partnership with them. But now we're seeing some more layoffs here, and this is 650 redundancies that Phil Spencer has announced here that are going to be let go. Now, the difference between these layoffs and the previous layoffs is that they say here they are mostly in corporate teams. They're supporting functions, namely things like HR, finance, and marketing. So it's not actually any developers that are losing their job, but still sad for those people nonetheless. And here is the email from Phil Spencer. He says, "For the past year, our goal has been to minimize disruption while welcoming new teams and enabling them to do their best work. As part of aligning our post-acquisition team structure and managing our business, we have made the decision to eliminate approximately 650 roles across Microsoft Gaming, mostly corporate and support functions, to organize our business for long-term success." Now, this is what all of these companies are basically saying, the same thing once they make these layoffs, just getting ready to be able to take on the future and have success there. And he's mentioning here those post-acquisition roles that are redundant, basically ones that they already have people doing those jobs, I would guess, and they don't need multiple people doing the same job. He says here, "I know this is a difficult news to hear. We are deeply grateful for the contributions of our colleagues who are learning they are impacted. In the US, we're supporting them with exit packages that include severance, extended healthcare, and outplacement services to help with their transition. Outside the US, packages will differ according to location. And with these changes, our corporate and supporting teams and resources are aligned for sustainable future growth and can better support our studio teams and business units with programs and resources that can scale to meet their needs. Separately, as part of running the business, there are some impacts to other teams as they adapt to shifting priorities and manage the lifecycle and performance of games." Now, if you're the consumer and you are the gamer and all you care about are the games, the studios, the platforms, and what effect that is going to have, this Phil Spencer clarifies that and says that there will be no effect to any of that. He says no games, devices, or experiences are being canceled, and no studios are being closed as part of these adjustments today. So for people looking for that and what that means, I mean, that part, I guess you could say, is the good news out of this. He says, "Throughout our team's history, we have had great moments and we have had challenging ones. Today is one of the challenging days. I know that going through more changes like this is hard, but even in the most trying times, this team has been able to come together and show one another care and kindness as we work to continue delivering for our players. We appreciate your support as we navigate these changes, and we thank you for your compassion and respect for each other." So there it is. There are more layoffs, 650 layoffs in the corporate side of these studios, particularly here within Activision. So this is just a continuation as to what has been happening this year. I mean, the layoffs have been absolutely insane. And will this be the end of the layoffs in Xbox, at Microsoft Gaming? Is this going to be the end of it for them? Or are they going to continue to make more cutbacks once they go through and realize maybe there are some more redundancies that they have to get rid of? It says here that the further round of redundancies will likely add fuel to the US trade regulators FTC's arguments that allowing Microsoft to acquire Activision is ultimately a bad thing, and the FTC hasn't yet relented in its lawsuit against the acquisition that they have been going through this for a long time now. They say which set the company back a record-breaking $72 billion in hard cash. What is going on here, obviously, is you have the business, the suits now, that are not playing games anymore. They say we spent that $72 billion. We need to make our money back, and we need to make our money back as fast as possible. So figure out ways to do that. And this is why you see these layoffs, you see these cuts with redundancies. They are going to be pinching every single penny. And I wonder how that's going to affect the actual development of games going forward. What does it mean for the types of games coming out? Are they going to be taking less risks in development? And I feel like they're probably less risky games. It'll be more just big hitters that they know are going to sell very, very well. I mean, we've already kind of heard them say that they're going to do that. That's, I think, the same across pretty much the entire industry when you're looking at what is happening here. Taking risks now in video games is becoming something that is less desirable because you have very little margin for error. If your game is not selling well instantly, it doesn't even get a chance. I mean, you even look at what just happened with PlayStation and Concord. They gave the game, what was it, a week? Maybe even less than a week before they shut it down and just say, we're going to eat those costs and move on and try to make our money back in other ways. You're seeing the PlayStation 5 Pro release at $700. It seems like they don't want to take a loss now on the console, which was generally the business model. When you do release a console, you take a loss and you try to get it out to as many people as possible. And all of these things are the future of what the consoles are. I think what these big companies are going to be looking to doing. And that is, I think, a major reason is because it's easier to access these titles. So why spend all of that money when you can just put your games and platforms everywhere? People already have devices to play them, like through cloud gaming, and they're going to try and invest in that and grow that side of the business. So this is a changing industry. 2024 is going to be known here for a year of cuts. So hopefully all these people do end up back on their feet and we stop seeing more layoffs and cuts. But I'm doubtful this will be the end of it before the end of the year, not just from Xbox, but from other studios around the industry. Now, on top of this, we always have some more information here about maybe where these studios and teams are located, from at least where the cuts are coming. This is from Charlie Intel saying, it appears today's layoffs at Xbox and Activision have affected Call of Duty Warzone mobile team. Several people on the mobile team across marketing, Solid State Studio, and Digital Legends have posted on LinkedIn about it. So the corporate side for those studios, the marketing and stuff, I guess they had multiple people doing that, and that's why those people are being laid off. So unfortunate for them. And again, hopefully they end up on their feet. You have to ask yourself, all of these major bonuses that people like Saudi and Adela and the executives are taking, will they take a cut ever and maybe try to save some more of these jobs? Answer is probably not, to be completely honest. All right, let's look at this, because this, I think, is, I mean, my fingers are crossed that this is actually going to happen, not just with Tony Hawk, but just the overarching catalog of Activision games. I hope Xbox does start bringing these back. Tony Hawk is a classic, one of my favorites of all time, and it looks like it may be on its way back. Here we have Tony Hawk saying that he is talking to Activision again. So speaking on Mythical Kitchen, the legendary skater said that there's something planned for the anniversary, but wouldn't be drawn on specifics. Says, I wish I could tell you more, but I can tell you that I've been talking to Activision again. We're working on something. It will be something the fans will truly appreciate. And as we know, they did the remake of Tony Hawk's 1 and 2. I have it, I have the collector's edition. I have the skateboard, a phenomenal game. And then they were going to be doing Tony Hawk 3 and 4, but then Vicarious, they say here, got absorbed, which, as we know what happened with them, which was a sad day. And then they weren't making that game anymore. Specifically, he says that was the plan even up until the release of 1 and 2. We were doing 3 and 4, and Vicarious got kind of absorbed, and they were looking for other developers, and then it was over. And he adds here, the truth of it is Activision were trying to find somebody to do 3 and 4, but they just didn't really trust anyone the way they did Vicarious. So they took other pitches from other studios, like what would you do with the THPS title, and they didn't like anything they heard, and that was it. And he says, who knows, maybe when the dust settles, we'll figure it out. You never know. I never would have thought we were going to do 1 and 2 20 years later. So I hope it's something along those lines. They bring back 3 and 4, or maybe they give just a huge package 1 to 4 in a single game. It would be absolutely insane to celebrate this classic video game. It's just a fun arcade skateboarding video game, and if you've ever played them, you would understand how great these are. So I really hope they bring back 3 and 4. It would be a no-brainer. I think 1 and 2 did very well in sales, and everybody was pretty hyped for it, and on top of that, they did a great job with the remake itself. So I hope that they have the team in place to be able to do something similar here with 3 and 4, or maybe they come out with a brand new Tony Hawk game, because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was an abysmal effort, and it's kind of sad to end it off on there as a main installment into the series. I would love for them to kind of go out there and make something to have some redemption for the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. All right, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 disk drive, because as we know, PS5 Pro was announced, $700. One of the biggest gripes about it is the price, but even bigger than that is that it's all digital. They're charging you $700, and they're not even giving you a disk drive in the box. You have to go out there and buy one separately. Now, yesterday we were talking about how it is a top seller. It's been selling out everywhere. And you have to ask, who's buying all these disk drives? I was thinking people are probably worried here about the stock of them with the PS5 Pro coming out. If you have a PS5 Slim, you want to pick one up. So maybe those people are buying it. But the other conclusion that a lot of people were coming to was scalpers going out there, buying up all the disk drives, and they're going to be selling these for way more money to gouge people on the PS5 Pro. So you've bought a PS5 Pro, you've been gouged from Sony. Now you're going to go out there and try to get gouged from these scalpers. It's going to be crazy because you're going to have scalpers even buying the PS5 Pro and trying to price gouge even more. And people are going to spend their money on it, which mind-boggling to me. But this is where we are right now when it comes to the PlayStation consoles. And it says here, scalpers attempting to resell the PS5 disk drives, but sources say don't worry about the availability. And I hope that's the case. I hope PlayStation produces more than enough of this. That's one way you just combat it. Make so many disk drives, make so many PS5 Pros, and then just scalpers will lose all of their money. It says it's taken just 2 days since the announcement of the PS5 Pro for scalpers to try and ruin things for everyone else. On Wednesday, it was noticed that the PS5 disk drive was selling out at online retailers like Best Buy and Amazon. And now just another day later, scalpers are attempting to make profits on the PlayStation 5 disc requirement. You can see here, this is a picture on eBay. They have them reposted here for $200, $124, $140, $120. So obviously with shipping and everything, you may be paying over like $200 plus to get an external disk drive. And it's a pretty shitty thing. And it's kind of a shitty look at what the future is going to be like for people who have a physical catalog, who maybe want to go out and get a PlayStation 5, but they don't want to buy everything digital. And there's still that availability to get a disk drive to attach to it. Those disk drives, unless they're created that there's so many actually available here on the market, they may have to end up spending a crazy amount on eBay just to get them from a scalper. I mean, they are saying here though that there will be plenty available, but you never actually know until the stock is there. Because if you think about the Series X and the PS5, for the first 2.5 years, people were scalping those off eBay all the time because there's no stock available. It took so long to get those available in stores where you could just walk in and pick one up. And when you look at the PS5 Pro, all digital, $700, this is probably what the future is going to be. Maybe this is the last of the physical versions of the PlayStation 5 next gen PS6. Are they going to have a disc drive included with the console itself, or is it going to be an all digital console? That is a question that we will have answered here in a couple of years. Now, one of the best games for a lot of people this year is Astrobot. I think the game looks phenomenal. As soon as they showed it off, when they announced it, I thought it was going to be very, very good. I haven't played it. I will end up playing it. So I'm not surprised about it being talked about as one of the best games of the year. But the question here is, are people going to play it? Because as we know, when it comes to PlayStation games, their current catalog, minus Astrobot, isn't very diverse. It is a lot of third-person action cinematic style of games. Platformers really isn't in the repertoire, at least right now. It used to be, and I hope it goes back to that. But as of right now, with their main catalog, Astrobot is just like a nice breath of fresh air in the PlayStation lineup. But are people going to buy it and play it? And it looks like it's doing okay in certain areas and not doing as bad as some people thought it was going to do. But the Japan sales charts are out, and they say that Astrobot barely registers at retail, and this is only for physical copies to be fair, and that the PS5 players numbers plummet, or the PS5 numbers in terms of sales have plummeted since the price. Like, as you remember, PlayStation raised the price of the PlayStation 5 in Japan, which actually helped Xbox sell more consoles. But this is the charts here. You have the software sales. And Astrobot is number 2 behind a Nintendo Switch game, but it has sold only 12,672 physical units. Now, if you're going to add in digital, I'm sure it's much higher than that, but we don't know where it is. This isn't going to be like an insane seller for PlayStation. And I don't think it actually has to be, if I'm being honest. I think because of the type of game it is, development costs are lower. They probably have to sell far less copies to actually get a return on investment. So PlayStation will make their money back on Astrobot, I don't think, with any issues there. And I hope at that point, at least if it sells enough for them to make a return on their investment, it encourages them to make more games like Astrobot. I would love to see a much more bigger variety of games similar to this within the Astrobots or within the PlayStation lineup of games. But 12,672 in Japan. I think it's been doing okay in the UK as well. it isn't going to be an insane seller this year, but probably will be up there for talks of game of the year. But then when we take a look at the PlayStation 5 itself, it says here, the numbers have fallen off a cliff following the console's recent price increase in Japan. The current gen system managed to move just 11,800 units, which is less than half of the total that it posted in the previous week. Not surprising. People don't want to see these price raises. And it makes you ask the question, who is going to buy the PS5 Pro at the price that they are selling it at if a price raise for the base PS5 is making it not sell as much as it generally does? It'll be very interesting to track when that thing does release. My prediction for the PS5 Pro in terms of sales, it'll initially have a big launch. Probably most of the units will be sold for enthusiasts buying it, because there is enthusiasts that will go out and buy anything, and then scalpers as well. And then after that, after the initial launch, I don't know how well it is going to sell, and I think the PS5 base will still be out there doing much bigger numbers, especially if they eventually decide to cut the price of the PS5 base. But the PS5 Pro at $700, I don't think overall it's going to be an insane seller. Other than at the launch of it, but we will see. I could be wrong, and we will definitely track how that does do. All right, let's talk Unity, because Unity is finally coming back on their royalty fee that they were going to start charging every time a game that was installed that was using Unity. They would be charging a royalty fee to the developer, which caused huge controversy last year. Looks like they are rolling that back. It says the fee, which was first introduced in September 2023 and was set to start on January 1st, was initially going to see Unity charging a royalty fee based on the number of times a game is installed using the Unity engine. And then later the month, the company partially walked it back on its plan, saying the runtime fee would only apply to users subscribed to Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise subscription services and would no longer apply to existing games. Now we have a new statement here from the Unity president and CEO, Matt Bromberg, saying, after deep consultation with our community, customers, and partners, we've made the decision to cancel the runtime fee for our games customers effective immediately. Non-gaming industry customers are not impacted by this modification. Over the last 20 years, we've partnered with brilliant designers, developers, artists, and engineers, publishers, and platforms to build a world where great games could be built by anyone for everyone. We called it democratizing game development, and it remains our core mission today. However, we can't pursue this mission in conflict with our customers. At its heart, it must be a partnership built on trust. And he says, I've been able to connect with many of you over the last 3 months, and I've heard time and time again that you want a strong Unity and understand that price increases are a necessary part of what enables us to invest in moving gaming forward. So they're walking it back, no longer charging that royalty fee, which I think is a good thing, but now they're actually increasing the overall price to get in to Unity Pro and Enterprise subscriptions. And I believe it says exactly what it is here, that Unity Personal will remain free, and its revenues and funding ceiling has been raised from $100,000 to $200,000, but Unity Pro subscriptions will rise 8% to $2,200 annually, and Unity Enterprise subscriptions will rise 25%. I still think that's a better option than the royalty fee that they were charging. But that's it for me. I will end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.